video, I'm going to explain the script that's in the game, so that y'all aren't extremely confused, and especially for the programmers or the programmer. I think there's only one programmer or one other programmer, so that they're not confused, or you're not confused when you look at the code, because it's a lot. So first, I'm gonna open the game in GitHub. So show and explorer, then go to fall 2025 assets, and then scenes, and then open level 1. So here's the project. I'm going to open up the script. Now, before I open up the script, I'm just gonna go over what's here. It looks like there's nothing here, and well, yeah, there is nothing here. But every level just has the player with the script and some global volume, which I don't know what it does, but it's there, and that directional light. So basically, when you run the game, everything spawns in. So I'm gonna run it. So at first there's nothing, and then when you run the game, things actually show up. So there's like a canvas, and here's the camera, and here's a bunch of UI objects. So that's how the game works. Just spawns in stuff as it runs. I realized that for like a level designer in Unreal, for example, or even here, you could do it here too. They would just, drag their objects in and just move them around, and then hit run, and then test the levels like that. In this case, because everything spawns, only when the game is running. How the level designers could test levels is test it while it's running. So I'm going to do free aspect. So it's running right now, right? This is the game screen, as it says right here on the top left is the game screen. And you can also put like stats, like it's running 120 FPS stuff. But this is the game screen. And you can actually go back to the scene tab and move around in the game while it is running. So in the levels, hold on. So in the levels, when you select a level, certain things will spawn in, right? So what the level designers would do is, okay, pretend that this sphere is what spawned in, even though there's the player. Whatever spawns in, you can look at it and you can like move it around, and you can just mess with it and see, how it works and stuff. So when the cabinet and the pinball and all the pinball objects spawn in, the level designer can still go in and move them around and stuff while the game is running. So the point is, although there's nothing here when you open a project, there's stuff still exists. You can still mess around with it. You just gotta run the game. For example, I can go to the some of the UI objects. I can go to them through here and look around and stuff, and I can move them around. So options, right, is down there. If I move it over here, well, now it's to the right. And this is all of these changes that you make during runtime are temporary. So none of this will save. Now that could also cause a problem, like, okay, the level designer wants to change how the level is laid out, but they don't actually know how to do that because it's all inside the script. So I'm just gonna go over the script now because, yeah, I want y'all to like see how this works and for y'all to not be extremely confused. So I'm gonna open the script now. To open the script, you go to player or you go to the script file, and that's where the script is, but I'm gonna open up here. As you can see, there's a lot of prefabs. Whoops. There are a lot of prefabs here, and yeah, the game uses all of them. So I'm going to go to edit script. So here's the script. I zoomed in a little bit, so when you open the project, it's gonna look a lot more spread out than this, but here's the script. So there's a lot of structs, enums. Here's where I initialize things, and then start to where I give them data, and then the update where things update. There isn't a lot in here because most of it isn't here. So first, I'm just gonna go through all of these. So first of all, the enums. What is an enum? Well, an enum is an enumeration. So you see here, I put no, press, whatever. These are really booleans that are in a list. So no is 0, push equals 1, press equals 2. That doesn't really matter. The point is that an enum is you can make an enum and set it to whatever value is in the enum definition. So I can make an enum and set it to null or pushed or pressed. And we really use these as booleans, yeah. As booleans to change up how the program runs. And I use these all over the place. So yeah, that's what an enum is. It's really just a switch. You use it as okay, the controller state is keyboard, so I'm gonna do keyboard inputs, you know. You change the enum and then you do different things based on what the enum is. And you can put many different states. Now I'm going to go to the actual structs. So the input button, what is that? What struct is this? Well, this is a small struct and all it has input button. The purpose of the input button is stores gamepad inputs, input data, button data. What I mean by that? Well, every button has an input and a state, and I'm gonna go over exactly how I use it in once I get to the input manager. I'm going to actually show that it's going to be there. And I did the same thing for input keys. So there are buttons for gamepad and input key for the keys on a keyboard. So the input key stores key data. Keyboard data. So yeah, So I basically spawn a list of these for all the inputs, and you're going to see them. So now to the input manager. The input manager manages all the inputs from all devices. And I made the input manager because I don't want just random, oh, if keyboard space equals true here, then do whatever. With the input manager, all the inputs are in one place, so all you have to do is reference whatever input manager is. Stores all inputs and detects inputs. So when you press a button or a key, it will go through the input manager, and then we will somehow get the input. So there's a lot of functions here to do that. And the most important functions are not this one. Construct, that's kind of important, but the most important functions are set keyboard, set gamepad, and search. So these two, set keyboard and set gamepad, are important because these are where all the inputs are. So I put all the inputs of keyboard and gamepad in a list called keyboard inputs. And as you can see, they're ordered by their index. So W is in index 2 in keyboard inputs. A and index 3 space and 0. And same for the gamepad. And the gamepad is like a controller. Unity calls it a gamepad because the name for a device, an input device, is a controller because, well, that's what an input device is. It controls whatever. It's a controller. So gamepad, keyboard, main inputs. So yeah, so all the inputs are in these two functions. So if you want to find an input, specific input, you go here. Search is where we detect the inputs. And we also change the controller state. And that's basically determines if you're using a keyboard or a gamepad. And then we do different stuff based on if it's a gamepad or a keyboard. If it's a gamepad, we check gamepad inputs, right? Check controller input. If it's a keyboard, we check keyboard inputs. Very simple. So where do we use this exactly? Well, in the update function, inputs.search is executed every frame. So here's search. This is where we get all the inputs. And here in this other function, here I use the inputs. So the name is inputs. And if you ever want to know that, here are all, right here are all the objects, right, that exist, and all the names are here. So this one's called inputs, the camera, the canvas, game run, the player. So inputs is the input manager, and you do inputs, whatever list of inputs you want, keyboard inputs, for example, here. And then you do dot state, because what we want is the states. It's the state of the input, but not the actual input, because those are different things. So here we have keyboard inputs and then gamepad inputs, same thing. And we just put the index of the specific button. And it's really easy to just look at this with a cool technique. So if you hold Control and you hover over anything, it will highlight blue, and you can click on it, and it will send you straight to the definition of whatever you just clicked. And that's a quick way to go in here and check which key is in which index. So you see that index 0, I'm taking the key from index 0. What is index 0? It is space key. So yeah, I did that by holding control and just clicking whatever word I see, whatever variable I see. And also, whenever you get inputs, you should pass through inputs that control type. That tells you if it's a gamepad or a keyboard. And then you put in a keyboard input and a gamepad input, because you want both. Because we want the player to be able to switch between gamepad or keyboard at any time. And this is how we do it. We check what the control type is, and then we either use a keyboard input or a gamepad input based on that. So yeah, that's the input manager. Decides whether you're using a gamepad or keyboard. And we use it to get inputs from keyboard or gamepad. Next is the game camera. The purpose of the camera struct, well, it stores the camera. Stores camera object. And also, it also sets the frame rate. When I construct the camera, I also set the frame rate. So that's where this is. And frame sets frame rate. So yeah, the camera is in a game camera struct, and it is specifically called the camera. So that's how we access the camera. And yeah, that's all it does. It stores the camera. And in the future, how we'll use it is to change perspective. So in the future, we'll use like these rotations, quaternion rotations, and move the camera around whenever the player wants to do so. Or it would just be stationary. I don't know. But at some point, I plan to actually use the camera, and we can do that through this. So yeah, to change perspective. It doesn't do much right now. Next, we'll look at UI object. UI object is an object. It's an object. This is how I initialize every object. Well, UI, every 2D object that you see in the game, this is how I make it. So yeah, this construct function has a lot of arguments. It has a lot of arguments in it, and that's so that there's only one construct function and multiple options, because there's images, there's text, there are buttons, and they're all UI objects. So I just decided to put everything in the UI object, so I don't have to say, okay, I want text UI object, instead it's just they're all the same. And yeah, and the way we use it, I'm gonna show y'all how we use it. We get a prefab. We first get a prefab of some UI object, and then we set it somewhere. All of this right now is used in Game Manager, but I guess I'll get to that later. But yeah, the main use for a UI object is, well, UI. User interface. So these objects, I can spawn like a list of them, and that's what I do. I spawn a list of them, and I mess around with them. I spawn them at different times. So yeah, it could be a text button, whatever. That's a UI object. Next, we'll talk about the UI canvas. The UI canvas stores, or it doesn't store all the objects. It stores the canvas, first of all. Stores canvas object. And what a canvas is the plane, basically the plane, the area where all the UI objects are. So every time I spawn in a UI object, I tie it to this canvas. And the canvas is actually tied to the camera. So they're all tied to the camera, but I tie every object to every UI object to the UI canvas. That's why it's called UI canvas. And it is basically the screen, but not really. It's the screen for the UI objects. It's pretty weird, but this thing holds and renders all UI objects. Next is the player struct. The player has basically nothing in it. Yeah, this will stay like this probably. There's nothing in here, and all it holds is it stores the origin objects, and what that is basically what the script is tied to. It is the green sphere that we see in the Unity scene. That's what this is, and I just called it and I just stored it in OBJ. Yeah, it doesn't really do anything, but I will use it later. I will use it to tie everything together, I guess, in some way. I will use it to place pinball objects. So I will tie the transform of this game object with all the other pinball objects, so they are easier to move around. But right now it doesn't do anything. Next is the level manager. The level manager holds the levels or stores levels as strings. So there's a list of strings and strings for like select the level and current level. And when I construct this struct, I put in the names of each level. So yeah, the way we and also the level manager switches scenes. Each scene has a name, and I put it through, and I store it in a string. And when we load the level, we just say, okay, which level is selected, and we load that. I don't know if there's a different way to load scenes, but this is the way that I found that works. And I forgot to show this, but the UI canvas is called the canvas. Actually, I think I showed that already, but yeah, there it is. Now we'll look at the game manager. The game manager is where all of this, or most of this stuff is. It's where all of the UI objects are, the UI canvas, the level manager, even some inputs. That's where everything is. The game manager is where the game runs. So when I open this, there's gonna be a lot of stuff. So the game manager, what is the purpose? Well, is to run the game and also manages all objects. So all the objects, I spawned them here. They're all spawned here. I construct a level manager here. I make some states here for the screens. Oh, also, yeah. Once the game manages all objects, changes screen state. I manage the screen states. And how this is mainly used in this actual script is over here in the update. It says update screen. That's the game running. That's what this is. And this function is right here inside Game Manager. In this function, yeah, it updates the screen. So it basically says, okay, you have some inputs here, right? I put some inputs here. Check if it's keyboard or gamepad, you know, jump equals this or this or this or that, you know, and then there's pause too. And then it checks, okay, which screen are we in? So it will update whatever screen it's in. This is really only important for gaming screen because that's where most things will run. This is where the pinball will run, or this is where I plan to put it. This is where I plan to, yeah, update all the objects, the inputs too, and yeah, all the paddles and bumpers. It will all update here. For example, if there was an object here and it was updating, if the screen is not start screen, for example, that object will not update. It will, something else is gonna update. So it effectively pauses the game. So when you try to move an object here in game screen, but it's not on the gaming screen, you won't be able to do it because it only happens on a game screen. So this serves as a pause, as a freeze of the game. It freezes the game like Minecraft, you know, when you pause the game, it actually, the zombies stop moving, you stop moving, everything stops moving. That's the whole purpose of this. And then we have change screen. Change screen will changes the screen. This runs, as you can see, it is outside any if or else statements. So it will run every frame. And change screen is over here, right above the updates. This has a giant if statement right here at the very top. This will actually, everything in here will only execute once the screen actually changes. So it only happens once, although we are checking if the screen is changed at all. Every frame, whatever's in here only happens once. And what happens here is the screen state will change at some point outside of this function. It will detect that, and then what a screen really is a combination of objects. So every time a screen changes, we activate or deactivate specific objects. Very convoluted how I did this. It is very complex. It is weird. It is not that hard to understand, but it's just all over the place, man. So I'm going to basically stick onto this part of the code mostly because yeah, I don't really want anyone else to deal with this crap. You know, this is not fun at all. So but yeah, this, whenever a screen changes, some objects activate or deactivate. And this is how I make the menus. This is how the start menu works. This is how the pause menu works. Basically, buttons activate, deactivate, and they either show up or don't show up. Manages menus, updates all data. And yeah, this is where things change. This should be the only place where things change. So that's the game manager. It's where everything runs, where the game runs. And I think that's all of them. So to look at this as a whole, look at all of this. We have inputs so we can detect use like gamepads, keyboards, mouse. We can use all of that and do things with it. So we have inputs. And we also have a camera so we can change the perspective and all that. And we can make text, we can make buttons, images too. We can also decide when objects are spawned in, delete objects, make a bunch of objects at once, you know, set timers, make levels, change the scene. So we can do a lot. We can do a lot with this. I'm confident we can do a lot with this. Yeah, that's all of those functions I just mentioned. I'm pretty sure we can do all of that. So with this, I think that's enough to make the pinball game. And in the next video, I'm going to actually make something out of this. So yeah, that's all. Oh, and side note, whenever you close the project and you go back to GitHub, you'll probably see something in the changes. And this is just like every time you open the project, for some reason, GitHub says, oh, you changed something. Oh, you changed something. You definitely changed something. Although you did nothing, you know. Even if you do nothing, even if all you do is open a project, this will probably happen. So if you don't want to change the project, well, you go to your changes tab and you left click on the changes and you discard the changes. And to see if anything was committed in the past, you go to history and you will see all the changes made in the past. So